Yeah, tears started soon. I just thank you for these guys, Lord, that I have been able to get to know so well and lean into each other's lives in really meaningful ways. Lord, you brought us together, and you brought us together for a purpose, something that we definitely felt and felt that calling to, and know that many guys were touched through this. So I know that even as seasons come and go and chapters open and close, that you use this for good, and all that we've done, these 120 episodes that'll be out there, can still communicate the heart of what we rallied around together and how you inspired us throughout this time. And so, Lord, in this final episode, would you use us, speak through us, and would you communicate what needs to be communicated here? In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Off you go, Niemeyer. It's all recorded.
Anybody got a good dad joke?
You know, I don't have a good dad joke, but my son Gunnar does. And it had us rolling, so I'll share it here.
Uh-oh.
What did the Papa Buffalo say to his kid when he dropped him off at school?
What do you say? What?
Bye, son. Get it? Bison?
Oh, yeah, wait.
Oh, man.
It's a good one.
Yeah, he's got some good jokes, that Gunnar. I like that kid.
Is there really any such thing as a good dad joke? I mean, that kind of like, they don't go together really, do they? It's a dad joke. It's not a good joke, but it's a dad joke.
There's a whole YouTube channel. There's a whole YouTube channel called Bad Dad Jokes. Have you seen this? It's pretty hilarious, actually. Well, hey, welcome back to another episode, dare I say, the final episode of the Entrepreneurial Family Man podcast. I am Chris Niemeyer here with my good friends, Christopher McCluskey, Michael McGreevy, and Jamie Slingerland. We are four guys crazy about our wives. We love our kids, and we want to kill it in business. And 120 plus episodes in, we are still the same guys, where this is a safe place to have those interesting, sometimes difficult conversations of where business and family and marriage all intersect. We've been going strong for a few years here, guys, and I mentioned it there up front, but we have decided that this is the final episode of the Entrepreneurial Family Man podcast. Now, we rallied around this idea years ago, and I've really always held it loosely, frankly, in the respect that this idea is part of who we are. It's part of in our beings of being an entrepreneurial family man. That's who we are. We identified that in one another. And this podcast kind of became a, hey, we should probably talk more about this and share that idea with other guys and have it a way to communicate this message to a greater audience. And we've been going at that well each week for 120 plus weeks here. And let's just be candid, this whole COVID, Corona, whatever, helped all of us, maybe forced all of us to look at, okay, what do we have on our plates right now, individually, corporately? How are we spending our time? And what maybe do we need to lay down or push pause on? What do we need to start that we've been neglecting? And so we kind of came around together and had a conversation about EFM, what that means, and where we're going. So, guys, we have recorded, Jamie, you said we've recorded close to 70 hours of content. We've been at this for weekly over 120 weeks. That's pretty amazing.
Wow.
What are your feelings? Fill in some gaps here for me on this decision and this episode.
Man, this feels heavy. It feels so final. You know, as I look around at each one of these squares on Zoom here as we record, I have a deep appreciation that from the beginning, we've said that we would hold our friendships above anything that we do in business. And I think that's why we can have this conversation today, and there isn't some kind of knockdown, drag out fight, or someone didn't get what they wanted and they walked away mad. And I think that's just a really beautiful thing that we were able to arrive at a place like this, and that our friendships will continue, and that our relationships will continue. And this EFM podcast is one thing that we happen to be doing together, but our friendships are another thing that are deeper, and there's more to it. And I appreciate that about each one of you at this table. And yeah, for me personally, as you talk about focusing in on what we need to do in our lives, my word for this year, 2020, is established. My picture of what I have going on in my life is calling for me to step up and be the one leading that establishment in each area of my life. So I think about this house that I'm working out in Clarence Center, and how we really want to make it our home and make it a place where we want to make memories together. That thing is halfway done, and it needs my attention, and I need to focus on that. And also my business too. We're all pivoting in different ways because of this crisis, and my business needs more of my attention, and I need to double down and focus on how I'm going to continue to grow that. And so this is just a project, and it was a valuable project, and it really helped us deepen our friendships and grow together. So I have mixed emotions about this, guys. I feel like there's some sadness here because we won't be doing this every week and getting together every week. But I also have excitement on the other side of what that'll mean for my family and what other doors might open for me in the future too. So I'm both grieving this loss of this regular relationship that we've been able to have because of us recording weekly. And I'm also feeling just excited about what newness might come as well. How about you guys? I'm feeling a little bit, I'm stumbling over my words a little bit on this one. What about you, McCluskey and Jamie? Anything to add?
I'll let Aslan go first.
Aslan, I'm kind of looking like Aslan these days. I haven't been to a barber in way too long. But I agree in looking back that, I mean, we got to remember we were all friends long before this EFM started, even when just the three of you were doing it. When I wasn't part of it, when it was just the three of you, we already were buddies from our years in Dan Miller's mastermind group. And so being buddies then and seeing what you guys were doing, and you guys inviting me in for, what did we call it originally? It was once a month, like
McCluskey mentorship moment.
That was it. The McCluskey
the word of the week
moment. Yeah. And it grew into me plugging in here. And here we are now about 2 years later, right? A good solid 2 years later, wrapping up this project. But it doesn't change the friendships at all. The friendship is deeper than it was because we did this particular project, and because of the trips that we've taken together and the other dreaming and planning and all. And so now we close out because, yeah, this COVID thing has really dropped like a bomb in everybody's lives. You know, everything is having to go up to be reevaluated. If the main thing is to keep the main thing, well, what are those main things? And so this piece of what we do is being set aside, but it just is purely a sadness because we're not going to be doing this anymore, but it doesn't change anything else. And I'm very, very glad of that.
Yeah, I'm right there with both you guys, McGreevy and McCluskey. My heart is heavy a little bit. I know a couple of weeks ago when it kind of came to a crescendo, we were talking about what is God doing in our lives and everything like that. I had to process some of the stuff with Ruthie, and I became really grateful just remembering back 6 years ago when I first joined Dan's mastermind. Me, McGreevy, and McCluskey were both in that group right from the beginning. And I remember moving from Buffalo to Nashville and being lonely during the week because I didn't know any other people that could take their kids fishing on a Tuesday afternoon. I mean, I knew of this guy named McCluskey who was kind of like a, I don't know if you call him a unicorn or whatever, but he lived out there in the woods on rolling acres. And then he gave this presentation at Dan's mastermind group, and he explained just about how he took his family to a European vacation for 6 weeks. And I remember me and McGreevy having these conversations just about like what it could look like to work from home, have it align with what God's vision was in our hearts. A couple years later, we were on that cruise. I met Niemeyer, and we had a pretty instantaneous bromance after a little bit of me confronting him about some of the amenities on the cruise ship. Just joking. But
You thought I was the captain. I was just the guy on the boat.
But I guess sadness is not the word, but I'm super grateful for your relationships. Although we won't record the podcast every week, I'm just getting going on those domains. I have, be true to what we preach on the show, because it's a daily and weekly just discipline to really put our families first and have God be the center of our marriages. And so EFM is, I'll be using those episodes and the content that we produced as a resource for me, just to keep it top of mind of what I believe and what I hold true. And I'm sad about not meeting on Mondays every week, but I know that we have new adventures. It'll be different from this point on, and I'm grateful for all you guys.
Yeah, I just echo what you guys all say here. And Jamie, it's interesting you mentioned that. I think I'll probably be going back and listening to some of those past episodes maybe more frequently, just as reminders, right, of what it was that we shared and talked through and walked through, frankly. A lot of times we would be open about this on the podcast, that the topic of the day was typically derived from something that was happening in one of our lives that previous week. And we would approach it as a way to, hey, let's mastermind around this together for a bit and talk through that, because it's happening to you and it's happened to me. It's probably happening to countless other guys out there. And as we heard from those people that would reach out and contact us privately or in the Facebook group or through the mastermind that we had there for a while, that seemed to be the case. And so I think that's a great contribution that we can leave, and it's something we can take from too. I want to maybe just pivot to something else here, and that is some reflections about our time together, some stories that might pop up or situations that we encountered. Anything jump out at you guys in particular during this chapter of life together?
I'm going to use the fact that we're on video here because our listeners can't see it, but see if this triggers anything for you guys. You remember this?
Oh, yeah. You
Cuba.
drinking a mojito there or what?
Yeah. You remember that on that little square? We were eating breakfast, and that little street artist came up, and I didn't have any idea that she was watching us, and she sketched me out there and came over and brought me the picture. Of course, I paid her for it. I mean, it's a great memento from that time. But yeah, Plaza Vieja in Cuba.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, that's popping up for me too. Is I don't know if you guys remember when we went to the beach that one day. We all hopped in that convertible.
Are you kidding?
We were I think huffing some unleaded gasoline as we were going down the highway. But when we finally got there and got to the beach, I think we all had some kind of beachy drink in our hands. The color of the water was like this deep aqua. It was a beautiful day. And we had just come from kind of the polluted downtown city area, and the air was clear. The beach was perfect. We had a food order in, and all four of us were sitting on these lawn chairs right next to each other in the beach, just looking at the ocean. And there was one point when we just looked at each other and just took a deep breath, and we're like, this is amazing. We are all here together living this EFM life. Our wives are happy that we're here together. Mm-hmm. And this is just the fruit of all that we've put into our families and our marriages and our businesses, that we could sit here in this moment. And then shortly after, of course, we all ran into the ocean because it was getting a little bit hot. But that's just a really, really great memory for me, and I'll never forget that.
Oh, that's a great one. I'm looking back as you were talking there, just thinking through how many trips we've taken together like that. Whether it was all four of us in Cuba, some amazing experiences, leading other entrepreneurs on that trip. Man, so many stories there, but that rooftop balcony experience of just really casting visions and sharing from our hearts about what's next in each other's lives, and meaningful time. But, we had a few of us get on a cruise last year together, and man, tipping back some white tip lager at the Grand Cayman was, Chris,
remember that
ring? That's right. I forgot about that.
The ring of power, right? That's got to be one of the most surreal experiences of my life, snorkeling off of Grand Cayman Island with you guys and looking down and literally seeing a gold ring in the sand. I was like, where's the video camera running on this? My gosh.
That's true. That's so cool. And then getting out to Raleigh there and having some time together, just visioning more about what was happening in each other's lives and within EFM, and taking four-wheelers out at sunset. I mean, just some great times. I reflect on all of that thinking, thank you, Lord, for bringing guys into my life. We talked a lot about this Jim Rohn quote of you're the average of the 5 guys you're most connected to. And, you've been that for me, and you've elevated those important areas of my life, being around you on a daily or a weekly basis on this podcast. So many times we jump on, we talk about what's going on in our lives. Sometimes we're pivoting to help one another out in a certain area, or praying through a certain area. One of the things I've loved about every single podcast is that we pray before each one, just asking, okay, Lord, you've given us this little message, speak through us, because we really do feel this has been an experience of some holy ground, a calling that we've been offered. And I love being able to join in that with you guys.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. It's been such a privilege, and God has been the center of our relationships. We're going to leave a lot when we go someday when we die, but the relationships and the memories and the people that we've impacted, that's going to mean a lot more than, money in the bank or properties or any of these tchotchkes or material possessions. One of my favorite memories of the EFM podcast was recording a couple of episodes where McCluskey took the lead, talking about sexual intimacy and marriage, talking about how to talk to our children about sex, and just be vulnerable and say, these topics are important and they have eternal weight. I'm leaving doing the podcast with you guys a better guy, and just more open to be real about the topics that are super important. I'll be taking that with me and passing it forward, taking my light and taking my candle and spreading it out to the world. So I'm looking forward to that.
There's been so many listeners that have journeyed with us these past couple of years and got to hear each of our stories unfold. We talk a lot about real life on this podcast and what's in front of us, and the new opportunities or the things that we're going through. And so in this final episode, let's talk a little bit and kind of catch people up to this has been happening and what's next. What's next for you? I mean, so many times, it's like we've met people in person who've listened to us like dozens and dozens of episodes, and we kind of forget, like, wow, they kind of already know my story a bit. It's Jamie and Michael, you guys do better movie impersonations than I do, but what's that classic, like Chris Farley, where someone's like, hey, do you remember that time where you were like, yeah, that was cool.
Michael does the best.
You can do it.
Come on, McGreevy.
My least favorite thing to do in the world is to do an impersonation on call.
Yeah, on call. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay.
We need to grab
do it for you guys.
do it.
Remember that time? Remember that time that Jamie was drinking a beer on the show when we were recording? Remember that?
Yeah, I remember it.
That was awesome. Told you, I'm not at my best when I do it on call.
Sorry. I won't do that again. Oh, yeah.
Now we know why it's your least favorite thing to do.
Oh, man.
You're drinking a beer right now, McGreevy, right? Or is it seltzer water?
LaCroix. Yeah.
But to the point, right? So we each have things in front of us, and we each have our chapters that are in front of us. And so what's next? What's next for you guys on your plate? What are you looking forward to?
Ruthie's been not finagling, but
hold on. we can't just let that slide. that either was very sexual or it's not a word.
Yeah.
Can you help us out? Ruthie was finagling me? What does that mean?
Yeah, hang on a second. Ruthie, get out of here. I don't even know how to start over again.
This is great. We got one guy drinking a beer.
It's the same guy.
Whoa. Trivia like.
Cut.
Serve up that question again. I don't even know where we were at. What's new?
Remember that time when Jamie's wife was finagling?
Sorry.
You were getting finagled by Ruthie, and go. Yeah, moving forward. What's next for you, Jamers?
Yeah, Ruthie and I had a visioning meeting yesterday, and we just wrote out our core values for our business and talked about the multi streams of income that were for the different businesses that we're doing. I'm really excited just about the new season of investing time into my family, doing some travel. It's been a long time since we've traveled as a family, especially with all this COVID stuff. What about you, Nehemiah?
Yeah, man, we got a lot on our plate too. We are, just finding our feet here in Dunedin after moving. We still have several items to finish this remodel. And Jamie, you mentioned it, so I'll just rip the Band-Aid off, man. The travel industry got hit so hard. And so with two of my businesses in that space, it literally is kind of a reset of understanding, okay, what could this look like? What do I want it to look like? What will it look like, right? And having to kind of reassess that particular area of our income. I'm excited actually about that challenge. I don't know what it's going to be like and how long this will affect travel and to what degree, but figuring that out is one area of my income. And, I think with EFM on not on my plate anymore, right? Being able to kind of go back and go, well, what do I need to do more on with my coaching and my business consulting and kind of this fractional executive role I've taken on. So I'm back to square one on some of my course creations and looking at collaborations with others and finding ways to create income in ways that make sense. Jamie, back to what you did with your core values and what is true to you in terms of being within your skill set, but also gives us as a family the opportunity to maybe go hard for a short season and then have the flexibility and the freedom to get away, and making sure that my businesses flow and operate in that sense. So we'll see, and see what that looks like here in the future, but I'm just kind of doubling down on some of those areas where I need to spend more time on, frankly.
Yeah, that makes sense, Nehemiah. And it really is a good time to evaluate what's going on in our lives. And that's what Lydia and I are doing too. We're just taking a look at everything we're doing and asking, is this important to us enough to continue down this road, or do we need to adjust? One of the things I mentioned this here before, but one thing we've always wanted to do is talk about marriage together. That's something we've cared a lot about for a long time. We've had some close friends really struggle with their marriage, and so we want to be a light in that space. So that's something that we've been working on together. And as I briefly mentioned earlier, the house that we're working on, and when I say we're doing a renovation, I mean, we didn't just gut it. We took all the walls out too. So there's nothing left on the inside. And we even the walls that were holding the floor up, we took those out too and just put in beams. So it's a wide open canvas. And we really want to make it a place where we can have people come and be together. We want it to be a place of community. We want to reach out a little bit deeper within our neighbors or neighborhoods and have people over and develop relationships locally within the space that we live. So that's what we're intentionally doing. And we're dreaming about that right now, thinking about how can we set this space up so kids want to play here and adults want to come and visit here and spend time. And so that's what we're dreaming about right now. And we're super excited about it because we plan on being in there before the end of the year as a family and watching that vision come to reality. So really, really excited about what's next. And it's such a strange dynamic, right? To feel, to let something go that's really great and is making a good impact, making a huge impact. And at the same time, moving forward into the unknown a little bit. I mean, not that we're not planning and not that we don't have a vision, but it is unknown how it's all going to unfold. So it's a strange dynamic of letting go of what I value and is familiar and then stepping into the unknown again. And I try to do that over and over again in my life, and it's always served me well. Hasn't always gone the way that I planned, and that's a good thing, but it's always leads to new, exciting adventures.
Michael, I love that so much of what you are about. In fact, everybody here is so, everything always comes back to the family. What's my vision for the business? Yeah, but that's relative to what my vision is for the family. What's my vision for Anything else, it all comes back to, well, what's it going to do for my marriage, and what's it going to do for our kids? And I just love that. I love the thought of you guys being in that house now, that since we've all been there and gotten to tromp around in those bare rooms, to imagine the laughter in the walls once you get walls back up, and that space becoming a new home for your family and all. That's a happy thought. Here for the McCluskeys, man, this is such a season of transition for us, not just because of the COVID, but I've been talking recently about all 4 of our oldest kids wrapping up their college degrees. They staggered them. Our oldest is 28 now, but she got married before she'd finished her college degree and then got pregnant. And so here we are now with her having just finished. Alyssa finished her degree in December. So she'll walk, they were going to walk here in 2 weeks, but now that the graduation ceremony has been punted back, they'll walk in September, assuming we can travel by then. But Alyssa graduating, Colin graduating, Grace graduating, and Drew graduating, because Drew actually started long before, while he was still in high school, doing dual enrollment. So we got 4 kids all finishing up their college degrees in the next 2 weeks. By the time this thing airs, they will have technically graduated, though they won't have walked yet. So many of our conversations during this COVID thing have been about what's next for them. And I love that I'm hearing the same drumbeat of family for them. Now, they're looking toward the starting of their own families. And obviously, Alyssa and James have already started their family. But each one of them is saying how valuable being around family is. And I mean, they've traveled far and wide. They've gone to college all the way out in California and all the way out on the East Coast in Virginia. And they're saying, this is where home is, and this is where we want to eventually settle. So, golly, James has expanded his business dramatically. He's got a new series of online courses for people that are building websites for his website development company. And Alyssa left us yesterday evening a little bit early because she had another photo shoot for her photography studio. And Colin is enrolled right now in his 3rd coaching course. So actually, he should be able to get certified by the end of this year, or at least have his coursework done. He's launching his coaching business as he graduates. Grace's book is coming out October 6th. And Drew, actually, just 2 weeks ago, Drew came to us and got invited by one of the 3 guys that hosts a podcast called Bigger Pockets. It's on house hacking. A lot of our listeners probably follow Bigger Pockets. It sounds like he's going to be doing an internship with them in Hawaii and in Maui for like 6 months. He's going to go down there and do a house hacking kind of a thing. I think it's like 6 houses in 6 months or some crazy thing like that. But there's Drew, investing in his real estate dreams. And there's just, I look at all of that launching out, each one of the kids going in directions that are really in alignment with their passion. And I realize that that's because they've grown up in an environment where so much of our focus as a husband and wife were around helping them discern what those areas of passion and gifting and calling were. And Rachel and I now on our long walks at night, we're turning our attention much more to the next 3, because Sarah's 18 and Braden's 15 and Reagan's 12. So we got high school and junior high years and getting a much better sense of how they're built and what they may be called to. So yeah, I think if there's, our name really wraps up what EFM was all about. Entrepreneurial, family, men. Everything we've done is because of our deep commitment to these families we've been entrusted to steward and to raise for the Lord. So I'm excited about that, even as we close out this piece, and there's a little bit of a sniffle and a tear on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to reiterate and emphasize what you said there, that I love that so much of every single one of our answers had to do with our family. It was all centered upon that. And that's just ringing true for the mission of this podcast and the mission of who we are as men. So, that really kind of wraps this up in terms of commissioning you, the listener. How are you going to take and implement this EFM message in your own life? In what ways, especially during this kind of unprecedented time, right, of this lockdown and COVID, and what's it done for your family or for your business? Maybe you're uncovering new opportunities. Maybe you've been laid off or your business has been hit hard and you've got to find a new way to pivot. maybe those kids finally came home and you had to homeschool and you realized, gosh, this isn't that bad. Maybe we need to embrace this. Like us, take a look at what is on your plate. What's in front of you? What are the chapters that maybe were in the past, and what are some in the future that you could open up together as a family? You know, it always starts with, and a lot of our sections about what about you starts with having that conversation with your spouse. What's this new season ahead for us look like? And I would emphasize too, make sure that you have, like we did, and we do, have guys in your life that are pouring into you. Men that are lifting you up, that are the Aaron to Moses' arms, to lift one another up in this season. So go forward, be fruitful, multiply, and carry on this EFM message.